I looked at this story and I hear a lot of people commenting on about Leon Panetta disarmed soldiers in Afghanistan before speech. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not the that's typical. That's typically what's done. They might have their rifles out there and they'll take the bolt out of them or something like that. That's what they'll do. Or something else. But it's this article is it's kind of like this is not the exact article, but this is the gist of what the story was. Leon Panetta spoke to the military in Afghanistan and showed no trust to the soldiers. At the facility he spoke had been attacked by our enemy in retaliation for last week's bloodbath, which 16 civilians were killed by a member of the army, supposedly in cold blood. And nothing would have stood in the way if there was a retaliatory attack. But it also points out that somebody did something wrong in the army and killed a bunch of civilians. So I don't think Leon Panetta would have felt very safe. But, I always took a lot of in Roman history, and it's interesting about the number of emperors that were actually killed or assassinated by other means, and I don't even know if all the list of natural causes is accurate on this. But you're looking back, for instance, in 69 A.D., that was the year of the four emperors. They were all killed by troops, and Arthur was an emperor too. It was Galba, Arthur, Vitellius, and Vespasian. And Vespasian was the one with the urine tax. And then you look back in this time, there was a succession of many emperors that were killed. It's not so crazy, and that's typical practice. Not to say that the military does do that stuff. No, it's definitely not. It's not normal, but it's typical practice what Leon Panetta did. That they typically will make sure nobody has any weapons. The Secret Service comes in. I remember when Bill Clinton was visiting or something like that, they disarmed everybody. This was always my favorite bumper sticker for him, and I used to put that on my motorcycle. But I never got in trouble for it. I was in the military, and I used to have this on my oil tank of my motorcycle. The commander-in-chief, Clinton for change with the hammer and sickle, but nobody really said nothing about that. But I'm a person that kind of voices my opinion. But as far as them doing this, they do that all the time. It's not abnormal. And if you look back in Roman history, it's like you can't control things. This is actually one of the biggest fears that the elite has. And they can disarm the population, but they can't disarm the army. They can't disarm the force that they use to control the population. How do you control them? This is a problem that's always been. And you look back to Roman history, look what happened. These were the elite. And now, in a lot of cases, Aurelian, he was a damn good emperor. Probus, Tacitus, Florenius, Probus, very good emperors. The only problem is with their installing a lot of discipline in the army. The army didn't like it. Carinus, no. But, a lot of times these were actually good emperors that were murdered by their own troops. And it was just because the discipline was so severe. And actually, at that time, Roman soldiers were like Olympian athletes. I mean, they were ridiculously good at their trade. And talk about, the typical march would be like a marathon march, carrying their own weight, and they would still set up camp during that day. So, these were incredibly disciplined people, far more so than the military is today. Every single one of them would probably, during the day. And this is really why a lot of them revolted. It wasn't over some bullshit. I mean, the discipline was severe as all hell. And, but, what Leon Panetta did here is not, it's normal. It's just, that's really what's done. They'll disarm soldiers in anywhere, like the president shows up, Secretary of State shows up, Secretary of Defense shows up. It's pretty typical. It's pretty typical. And it's not a matter of trust, it's just a matter of precaution, because it only takes one to screw it up. And that shows that this happened with these 16 civilians. So, but you know, I think they're making some kind of political thing about this. I am not sure, but that is actually pretty normal. There's no big deal about that.